My name is Tom. I live in a small town in the mountains with my wife, Lily. It's quiet here, peaceful. Everyone knows everyone. Nothing bad ever happens. That's what I used to believe, until the man from the east came. It started on a rainy Wednesday. The old Miller house had been empty for years. No one wanted to live there. People said it was haunted, but I never believed in those things. That day, Lily and I saw a black car pull up to the house. A tall man in a long coat stepped out. He wore dark glasses even though it was cloudy. We watched from our window. He didn't look around. He just stood still for a long time, like he was listening to something. "Do you think he's lost?" Lily asked. "I don't know," I said. "Maybe he bought the place." A few minutes later, he opened the car's trunk and took out a small suitcase. That was all he had. No furniture, no boxes, just one old suitcase. He walked into the house and closed the door behind him. That night we couldn't sleep. Our dog Max kept barking toward the neighbor's house. He never did that before. I went outside and called him back. He stood by the fence, growling low, his fur raised. I didn't see anything, but the hair on my arm stood up too. The next day, I saw the man again. He was standing in his yard, staring at a tree. He didn't move. I walked over, trying to be friendly. "Hey there, I'm Tom, I live next door." He turned his head slowly. His eyes were gray and cold. His face didn't show any emotion. "I'm from the east," he said softly. "Oh, from where exactly?" I asked. He didn't answer, he just looked at me. "It's a nice town. People are kind here," I said, trying to smile. "I know," he said. Then he turned and walked into his house. That night, I looked out my window and saw something strange. The man was digging in his backyard. It was almost midnight. He had no lights on, just digging. He didn't stop. He didn't even rest. I watched for almost an hour. Lily came up behind me. "Tom, come back to bed. That guy gives me the creeps." "I think he's burying something," I whispered. "Or digging something up," she said. The next morning, Max was gone. We searched everywhere, called his name, asked our neighbors. Nothing. Max never left the yard. He always stayed close. Lily cried all day. Max was her baby. That evening, I went over to the man's house. I knocked on his door. No answer. I knocked again. Still nothing. But I knew he was inside. I could feel it. Then I noticed something. Near the porch, there were small bones, scattered, clean, like they had been picked by something. I went back home and locked all the doors. For the next few days, I kept watch. The man never left his house, but I kept seeing strange lights in his windows, blue and red, flickering like fire, but cold. Then the dream started. In the dream, I was standing in his backyard. The sky was dark, no stars. I could hear whispering. I looked down and saw hands, thin, pale hands, coming out of the dirt, reaching for me. I always woke up sweating. One night I couldn't take it anymore. I needed answers. I waited until midnight, then I went outside. His house was dark. I climbed over the fence into his yard. The ground was soft, like it had just been dug. I knelt down and touched the dirt. It was cold, too cold, like ice. I saw something shiny in the soil. I pulled it out. It was Max's collar. I froze. My hands shook. Then I heard a noise behind me. A soft, slow whisper, "Tom." I turned around fast. The man was standing by the back door. He wasn't wearing his glasses now. His eyes were glowing faintly. He smiled, but it wasn't a kind smile. It was sharp, empty. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "I want my dog back," I said, even though I was scared. He stepped forward slowly. "Max is gone. He belonged to me now, like the others." "What others?" I asked, but my voice broke. He didn't answer. He just walked back inside, and the door closed without a sound. I ran home, heart pounding. I locked every door and window. Lily was waiting for me. I didn't tell her what I saw, not yet. But I knew this. This man, he was not just a stranger. He brought something with him, something evil, something from the east. I couldn't sleep after that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Max's collar covered in dirt, and the man's face glowing in the dark. He said something that kept repeating in my head. Max belonged to me now, like the others. What others? I needed to know the truth. I needed to find out who this man really was and what he was doing in our town. Lily noticed I was acting strange. "Tom, you're barely talking. Did something happen that night?" I didn't want to scare her, but I couldn't lie either. "I think the man hurt Max," I said quietly. "I saw the collar in his backyard." Her face turned white. She sat down slowly. "We need to call the police," she said. But I had already done that. I didn't tell her yet, but I called them the morning after Max went missing. An officer came to our house. I showed him where the man was digging. I showed him the collar, but when he went over to the man's yard, everything was different. The dirt was smooth, no holes, no bones, no sign of digging. Even the collar was gone. The officer looked annoyed. "Tom, are you sure you saw what you say you saw?" "I swear I didn't imagine it." He nodded slowly, but didn't believe me. "We'll keep an eye on things," he said. Then he left. That's when I decided to take matters into my own hands. 2 days later, I saw the man leaving his house. He got into his car and drove away. First time I saw him leave since he moved in. I waited 5 minutes. Then I grabbed a flashlight and gloves and walked over. My hands were shaking. My heart beat fast. I knew what I was doing was wrong, but I also knew something even more wrong was happening inside that house. The front door was locked, but the side window was open just a little. I pushed it up and climbed inside. It was cold, much colder than outside. The air smelled like dust and old wood. The living room was mostly empty. Just one old chair, a table, a tall bookshelf filled with books. The books were strange. They weren't in English. The letters looked like symbols, twisting lines and circles like they were alive. Some of the pages were black with white ink. Others had drawings of things I didn't understand. Creatures with too many eyes, people standing in circles, stars that didn't match any map I had seen. I opened one book and felt my skin tingle. I closed it fast. I moved through the hallway, quiet, careful. That's when I heard it, a sound, very low, like whispering. It was coming from the basement. I should have left, but something pulled me forward, like I had to see, like I was meant to see. I found the basement door at the end of the hall. It was old and heavy. When I opened it, the whispering grew louder. Step by step, I went down. The air grew colder with each step. I reached the bottom and pointed my flashlight around. The basement was big, much bigger than it looked from outside. There were shelves filled with jars full of cloudy liquid. I saw something floating inside one jar. It looked like an eye, a human eye. I felt sick. I turned away. That's when I saw the room. A door stood at the far end of the basement, black with carvings all over it. I walked toward it slowly. The whispers were coming from behind that door. I put my hand on the knob. It was warm. I turned it and opened the door. What I saw made my blood freeze. Inside the room were dolls, dozens of dolls. But these weren't normal dolls. They were life-sized, and they looked real. Too real. One looked like an old woman from down the street, Mrs. Hargrove, but she had moved away last year, or so we thought. Another looked like a little boy who went missing last winter. Their eyes were open, staring, empty, but their skin, it looked real, not plastic, not rubber, real. I stepped closer. I touched the arm of one of them. It was cold, soft, like human skin. I backed away. Then I saw something on the table, a newspaper. I picked it up. It was from 5 years ago. Small town in Eastern Europe sees rise in disappearances. Below the title was a picture. The man, same coat, same glasses, same face. But the name under the photo was different. Dragan Veskul. I read the article fast. He was wanted for questioning after 10 people went missing in his village. They found his house full of strange books and human remains. But he disappeared before they could arrest him. He vanished. Until now, suddenly I heard a door slam upstairs. He was back. I panicked. I turned off my flashlight and hid behind a shelf. I could hear him walking, slow, heavy steps. He came down the basement stairs. He didn't speak. But the whispers returned, stronger, loud, and I realized something terrible. The whispers weren't coming from him. They were coming from the dolls. I covered my mouth so I wouldn't scream. He walked past me toward the doll room. I heard the door open, then close. I stayed frozen. I had to get out. but I couldn't move. My legs felt heavy. Then I felt something behind me. Breathing, slow and cold. I turned, shining my flashlight. Nothing was there, but a jar on the shelf had fallen. It was broken on the ground. The eye inside it was gone. Something moved in the dark. I didn't wait. I ran. I ran up the stairs, through the hall, out the window. I fell hard into the grass and kept running all the way home. I locked the doors, shut the windows, closed every curtain. Lily found me shaking. "What happened?" she asked. I couldn't speak at first, but then I said the words. "He's not a man, he's something else, and I think he's done this before, many times." Lily didn't ask anything else. She just held me. That night I didn't sleep, but the whispers did not stop. Even now, I can still hear them. After that night, I was never the same. I kept hearing the whispers, even in my dreams, even when I was awake. I knew something evil lived next door, but I didn't know how to stop it. I told Lily everything, but she didn't believe it all. Not really. She tried to act calm, tried to comfort me, but I could see the fear in her eyes too. That morning, I went to the police again. I told them about the basement, the dolls, the newspaper, everything. But when they went to the house, it was empty. The basement was clean. The strange books were gone. The dolls were gone. Even the black door was gone, just a plain wall now. They looked at me like I was crazy. "Mr. Walker," the officer said, "maybe you're just under stress. Losing a pet, it can be hard." That's when I realized something terrible. He was hiding everything. Not just from me, from the whole town. He was always one step ahead, and I was alone. The next few days were worse. Lily began acting strange. She stopped smiling. She stared out the window for hours. At night, she would talk in her sleep. She whispered strange words I didn't understand, like the ones I saw in his books. I tried to wake her, but her eyes would open wide and stare through me, as if she wasn't really there. She stopped eating. Her skin turned pale. Her voice grew cold. Something was happening to her. Something that started the night I entered that house. I tried to talk to her. "Lily, we need to leave this town now." But she just smiled slowly and said, "Why would we leave? He chose us." Her voice didn't sound like her anymore. That's when I made my decision. I had to stop him, or we were both lost. That night I took a shovel, a flashlight, and a small hammer. I waited until everything was quiet. Then I walked into the man's yard one last time. The dirt where I found Max's collar was soft again, like it had been dug up and refilled. I didn't care if he saw me. I started digging, deeper and deeper. Soon I hit something. Wood. I brushed off the dirt. It was a trapdoor, covered in symbols like the ones in his books. I opened it. A dark tunnel went deep underground. The air smelled like death, old, wet, and full of rot. But I went in. The tunnel was long and tight. I could barely stand. The walls were made of stone and covered in carvings. The whispering was louder here. It felt like it was coming from inside my head. After what felt like forever, I reached a huge underground chamber. It was full of candles, strange symbols on the floor. A black altar stood at the center, and around it were graves, dozens of them, all open, all empty. I walked slowly toward the altar. On it was a book, one I recognized from the house. It was open, and the pages moved on their own. I saw pictures of people turning into statues, into dolls, their souls trapped forever. That's when I knew the dolls weren't fake. They were real people, people who had been cursed, their souls locked in those bodies. The man wasn't killing them. He was collecting them, and he was feeding on them, on their souls, their pain, their fear. Suddenly, I heard a voice behind me. "You weren't supposed to see this, Tom." I turned. It was him. He stepped out from the shadows. His face looked different now. No more glasses. His skin looked older, like dried paper. His eyes were black holes, empty. He wasn't human. He had never been. "You should have stayed away," he said. "What are you?" I whispered. "I am from the East," he said calmly. "From before your kind walked the earth. I was worshipped once. Now I must feed in secret, but I am still strong." He moved closer. "You took my dog. You're hurting my wife," I said, shaking. He smiled. "They were only the beginning. She is almost mine, and soon you will be too." I stepped back. "I won't let you." He laughed. You think you can stop me with that toy? He looked at the hammer in my hand. But I remembered the symbols in the books. The circle, the altar, the graves. I wasn't going to fight him with strength. I had to trap him, just like he trapped the others. I stepped onto the altar and slammed the hammer down on the book. The pages burst into flame. The ground shook. The whispers turned to screams. No, he roared. What have you done? I backed away as the candles blew out one by one. The graves began to glow. The souls trapped inside rose from the earth, glowing like stars in the darkness. They swirled around him, screaming, crying. He grabbed at them, but they slipped through his fingers. His body began to crumble like ashes in the wind. I will return, he screamed. You cannot destroy me! And then he was gone. The chamber shook. Stones fell from the ceiling. I ran. I crawled back through the tunnel, out of the trapdoor, back into the cold night air. The man's house stood dark and silent, but the whispers were gone. Back at home, Lily was asleep. For the first time in days, her face looked calm. When she woke up the next morning, she smiled at me. Tom? She said, her voice soft and clear. What happened? I had such strange dreams. It's over, I said. He's gone. She didn't remember any of it. The whispers, the sleepwalking, the cold voice. And I was glad. Weeks passed. The house next door was empty again, quiet. The police said the man must have left town. No one came looking for him. No one asked questions. The house was put back on the market. No one has bought it yet. Sometimes I sit at my window and look at it. Sometimes I think I still hear faint whispers, like a warning. But maybe it's just in my head. Maybe not. I buried Max's collar in our garden, and every night I lock the doors, because I know something now. Evil doesn't always come with noise. Sometimes it moves in quietly, like a new neighbor, with a suitcase and a smile. From the east, the end